Dr. Tawfiq Hamid, who is an Egyptian, trained as a doctor and was recruited into an Islamic terrorist group. You were with them for 8 months. You accepted. You consumed what they were offering. You were prepared. You were prepared to kill and die.
Certainly,
Really? Did you do anything that was illegal or violent?
No, this was the moment when I started to question, when I started to think actively in doing something. I was actually invited to go to Afghanistan at that time, and I was mentally prepared to do this. In this moment, actually, I started to feel that I have to think differently, and I met with some guy who invited me for another sect of Islam that was relatively peaceful, and just a totally new story starts or began when I shifted from them to another sect of Islam, and I started to develop a new form of understanding Islam, or you can call it reformation within Islam, as what happened in Christianity and Judaism and other religions throughout history. This is what we need in Islam at the moment.
Well, let's first of all talk about the claims you made before the break, and they were striking, and some would argue they were sweeping. That this form of Islam allows or encourages killing of those who convert, killing of infidels, of homosexuals, enslaving of women, raping of women, certainly in Darfur at the moment. And this is a Muslim on Muslim war. It's an ethnic war, but Arab Muslims who are attacking African Muslims. This is not, the Christians are not involved in this part of the area. Genocide, horrible crimes being committed. Many would argue this is in the name of ethnic superiority and imperialism. You say no, it's motivated by a form of Islam?
Why Christians who live in south part of Sudan are not doing this at the moment? Why it is only Muslims? This is the question. There are Christians who live in the area and they don't participate in these acts. So there is element. There could be other co-factors, but trying to deny the concept that this sort of teaching or Salafi Islamic teaching promotes violence is just not true or not correct.
How influential is it? Because we all know, I mean, there's a lot of banal suburban analysis of Islam from people who are too frightened to really get to the heart of the issue here. But anecdotally, we all know people who are Muslim, who are gracious, decent people. How influential is this form of Islamic teaching?
You mean that the violent teaching is, just to give you a concrete example, if you went to most of, if not all Islamic universities, and you open the books of explanation of the Quran and the Hadith, okay, you will certainly see that the teaching in nearly all of them is violent and promotes these violent things. Like beating women, for example, is accepted, and till now Islamic scholars did not deny it clearly or didn't say it's not allowed. The maximum thing they say, it's of the face. You are not allowed to beat her on the face. But the concept of beating women is still there, okay? The concept of killing apostate, all Islamic scholars promote it. So we are talking about a phenomenon that's widespread, and it is a dominant form of teaching. I can say it is the majority. Majority certainly believe in this.
But take Iran, for example. Now, there is a ceiling for women. There are positions they cannot achieve, but there are many women at university in Iran. There are women in positions of influence. There are some women, obviously, who suffer, but they could make the argument that there's huge amounts of pornography and abuse in Western societies.
There is a difference here. When pornography probably abuse, beating women, for example, happen in a Western society, it doesn't happen based on religious teaching. So someone who is drunk, beating his wife, he can next day say, I did a mistake, okay? But when you justify this to someone telling him that God himself allows you to beat your wife, then you can change this person from an innocent person to someone who starts beating his wife based on this justification from God himself. So there is huge difference here. If someone did a crime, his conscience may tell him that this is wrong one day and he might change. But if someone feels that God is justifying this crime to him, then it's very difficult to change. And that is probably the real core of the problem here.
I just want to reiterate this point, or to challenge you on this point. You're saying the majority of Islamic universities, and obviously Islamic universities are in the Islamic world, the majority of them would teach the more militant and potentially violent aspect of Islam,
yeah,
and interpretation of Islam.
Certainly.
So there are no universities, no Islamic universities in the Muslim world who are teaching a more moderate, gentle interpretation of the Quran?
No, let me make things clear now here for you. We have Salafi Islam, that is the sort of Islam that is very violent, okay? That was actually mainly in the Arab Peninsula, okay? And we have Sufi Islam, that is sort of mystical form of Islam that's very peaceful. And we have liberals or secular Muslims, okay? If some young Muslim asked a question about killing apostates or beating women or calling Jews pigs and monkeys or such things to a Salafi Muslim, okay, he will bring to him hundreds of references to support these violent things from the Islamic literature, and you can check yourself. It's not a problem. It's available now, and you can check. So they can bring him hundreds of references supporting their views. The Sufi Muslims or Sufi are very innocent people, peaceful people, but they don't have a theological base for their peaceful way of thinking. They can tell to the young Muslim, my son, just be good to others, and God wants you to be good. And if the young Muslim insisted and asked, but this is written in the books, they can tell him, wait, and God will explain this to you clearly in the day of judgment, based on a verse that says, يَوْمَ يَأْتِ تَأْوِيلُ, which means when the day of judgment comes, the understanding of the Quran will be there. No, not now. So they have certain form of understanding that is peaceful, but they don't have powerful theological base for it. Right. The secular Muslim do not know the verses probably, basically. So if you are young Muslims, the only one of them who have a strong theological base is the Salafi, which dominated our area when Saudi Arabia became rich in the last 30 years. We in Egypt and other countries start to look to this form of teaching that dominated their area. We were moderate, relatively moderate, 40 or 50 years ago, relatively. And we started to say Allah or God blessed the Saudi by petrol because they adopt this sort of Salafi teaching, which is crystal clear on the sword of the flag and the words, no God except Allah and Muhammad is the prophet of Allah. It's the link between the religion and the violence is clear here as a symbol. But we started to adopt this form of teaching in Egypt, in other countries, so it replaced our moderate understanding of Islam. So this what happened. The next step that was really crucial when the Islamic organizations took the concept of jihad from a nation level or ummah level, which is that the Islamic nation should declare war on non-Muslims to spread Islam and such things. They took this level from the nation level to individual level, based on a verse that says قاتل في سبيل الله لا تكلف إلا نفسك, which means fight for the cause of Allah, you are only responsible for yourself. So based on their interpretation, they took the concept of declaring wars on other to even a smaller level instead of nation level. So they start to form small cells attacking others, and it went like this.